You know, sometimes I really long for yesteryear when things were so much better. You know, you ever think that you just want to go back because everything seems so simple and so much clearer to us? Have you ever heard anybody say that? You know, I wish I'd just go back to yesterday, just go back to those days. You know, like I was thinking, I wish I could go back to when I was a younger priest, when, like Father Matthew, he's now the new favorite priest. I did watch the live stream, and all of you clapped quite vigorously when he said that. So I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. You know, this is something that I think that many of us look to the past and romanticize about it, or just long for some reason, or we look towards the future and we forget about the present and the blessings that are with us right here and now, that God is truly with us right here and now. You know, and when we look at that past things, like I said, we romanticize about it. Like, just for an example, we think, oh, the church was so much better back then. Let me tell you about that. When I was at St. Patrick's, Lucan, 22 years ago. Now, you have to realize this is not the first time I followed Father Bob Remark. Okay, I followed him 27 years ago to St. Pat's. So God really has a sense of humor when you think about it, right? You know, it's like I got to follow another great pastor, and again, I got to follow Bob, you know. So, but anyways, but you know, when I was there, I looked at the old bulletins from the 60s, and you know what was in the bulletin? This is the good old days, right? Was the amount of money that each family gave that week, the week before. Does anybody remember that? The good old days. So if I hear you say, I want to go back to the good old days, let me know, and I'll put how much you put in the contribution this week for next week's bulletin. You know, there's things like this that you forget. And the Israelites were no different. The Israelites in the Old Testament today, they're looking and they're saying, oh, the good old days when we had our flesh pots, but you know, we were slaves to the Egyptians. They worked us hard. Some of us even died, but it was so much better. You bring us out into the desert and we're starving now. How ungrateful. Now, it's a good thing that God is God and we are not. Have you ever experienced that in your own life where you're just giving, and you just think, you guys are so ungrateful? Sometimes, you know, as parents, we might feel that. We give, and perhaps the kids aren't really responding, and you just want to say, forget it, I'm not doing anything else. God didn't do that. And he doesn't do it to us either, eh? You know, when the Israelites looked back, they forgot about the blessings. Were they not the ones that saw the Red Sea parting? Were they not the ones that saw the pillar of fire by night and the cloud during the day? Were they not the ones who saw the plagues that God put upon the Egyptians? Were they not the ones who, and I can go on and on about everything they saw and experienced and God did for them, and yet they're complaining that we don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I want to go back. Now, thank God, as I said, God is God, we are not. Because what did God do? He fed them. He made sure that they had bread in the morning and quail at night. He helped them to live. But he didn't want them just to live. He wants them to thrive. And the only way that they could actually do that was recognizing the present, beautiful, wondrous blessing of God's presence in their life right here and right now. And to respond with the same generosity to others as the generosity was shown to them in God. Where are we at with that as people of God, as Christians and Catholics? Do we truly understand what God has given to us right here and right now? And do we live a life of gratitude, an attitude of gratitude, if you will? An attitude of gratitude of all that God has given to us, you know, and to really respond to that with worship and praise to God and our love to God, and also our love for each other, living in peace. Paul says to us in the second reading, he says, put away your former way of life. He does say a few things about what that means, but he wants us to grow. Paul is talking about growth within the life of faith, and if we don't grow, we're just living, we're not thriving. So what does it mean? It means that the way in which we live, the way in which we think, and the way in which we do things must change as we grow in our faith. We can't just stay dormant. We can't just stay where we're at. God wants to lift us up to be more than what we think we can be. He wants us to become the person he created us to be, his disciple, with fervor and with thriving in the love of God. To live in faith, to grow in trust, to respond in love, to exhort the truth, and to live in peace with each other, which is not always easy. But we need to strive for that. And that's how we thrive, by making that acknowledgement of that true blessing. We need not look to the past, though it's important to notice the blessings of the past. We need not need not fear the future. Okay? Because what does that say about our trust in God? Right? Jesus in the New Testament, in the gospel today, he's helping the people of God understand that there's more than what they see here, physically see. Let's do a recap. Last week, Jesus fed the crowd, right? Or no, he performed miracles. So they saw him simply as a miracle worker, right? Okay, so what do they want to do? Oh, wow, look at the miracles this guy's working. This is incredible. He's got power that we've never seen before. So we're going to make him a king. They were going to force him to be a king. So Jesus skedaddled out of there, right? Knowing that what their intentions were. And then he feeds them. He feeds their belly, multiplication of the loaves. Now, not only do they see him as a miracle worker, but they see him as a manager of some fast food joint. And again, Jesus is saying there's much more here than the eye beholds. I have given you something to help you live, but you need to see beyond it in order for you to thrive. To thrive in your faith, to thrive in life, to grow as a disciple, to grow in my love. And that's what Jesus is saying. That the problem with these two situations is that the people didn't have a relationship with Christ. They only saw him as somebody that they can get something from. The miracle worker, the power, hey, he can free us. He can do this for us. He can do that for us. The manager of the fast food store, hey, he can get us that burger when we want it, and that bread when we want it, and that fish when we want it, and he can feed our bellies over and over. What can you give me? What can you give me? What can you give me? What's missing? What can I do? What can I give back? What can I be for the Lord? And in order for us to make it from one step to the other, we need to know that Jesus is truly present with us right here and right now. And that he loves you. And he loves all of us to be what we are called to be. When we celebrate the Eucharist, Jesus continues to feed us. For the next 4 weeks, it's the Bread of Life Discourse, Gospel of John. And we need to, as we are told, as we are learning through the scriptures, to look beyond what we see physically. Sherry Waddell wrote a book and talked about a pew poll. I'm talking about these type of pews, pew poll. And she made the note that 70 to 75% of Catholics do not believe in the true presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. When we celebrate the Eucharist, it's the true presence of the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ. 75%. So I could have this, all of you stand, and half of you stand, and that's how many do not believe in the true presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. That is extremely scandalous in many different ways. This is what Christ gave to us, himself. We need not look to the past or to the future. We need to look right now and see beyond what we see with our eyes, to see with our hearts, to know Christ with our hearts. Not just simply to know him. The greatest distance in the world is between the head and the heart, and back again. So what are we doing to enhance, to deepen our relationship with Christ? And what are we doing to respond to the generosity that he has shown all of us so much? So, as we come to the Eucharist this morning, and we're going to be talking about this over the next 4 weeks, the Eucharist being the gift of his very self. Look beyond. Did we just sing that song, Look Beyond the Bread We Eat? Is that being sung later on? I can't remember. I think it was. Anyways, look beyond the bread you see. Look beyond the cup you drink. Look beyond it and know that it is truly the presence of Christ, body, blood, soul, and divinity. He blesses you. He loves you. He guides you. He protects you. And when you come forward, receive that with that gratitude, that deepest gratitude, and show it in your life. We need to show it in our life as his disciples.